Well, welcome to the webinar. We do have all of these recorded. You can find all of the recordings if you go to, well, we do have all of the links and resources if you visit this bit.ly address, and I'll go ahead and I'll put that in the chat box for you. You can also get a certificate of attendance from all the past ones if you attended those, and even these. So welcome to American TESOL Presents Free Friday webinars. I'm Shelly Sanchez-Terrell, and today we're going to talk about getting to know activities for teens and adults. And then at a later date, I'll show you ones for kids as well. So there are many different types of getting to know activities for the beginning of the school year. And I think one of the most important reasons to do getting to know activities is because it really helps build your class relationships. And once your students are tightly knit together, when they're friends and they get to know each other more, then it really helps with classroom management. At least this is what I've found. And so I think that when we work as a group, then we get to have a great class year, because then we have a lot of fun and you feel more like a family, at least in all the classes that I've taught. And I've taught from 2 years old all the way to 80 years old. And we do a lot of these throughout the year so we can continue to get to know each other and build relationships. So these types of activities are really great for speaking. They're really great for listening. And they really help the students express themselves. But at the same time, they also not only work on that, but they also work on getting the classroom closer together. So not only does it build classroom community, but it teaches us about communication. And for high school students especially, this is a very important developmental skill as well. According to Piaget, that's one of the stages of development that they're in, that high school students and adolescent students, even as young as 13 years old, teenagers, they really have to be able to effectively work with others or see themselves in society. It's really great for their development. It helps teach citizenship, so you can, by doing this, you'll prevent things like bullying, cliques. It really helps them also, even adults, these types of activities help them with speaking. It gets them more comfortable with speaking because nobody wants to embarrass themselves, especially with lower levels and beginners. They get really embarrassed, and sometimes they may result to their native tongue because the self-esteem hasn't built up. But if they do getting to know you activities, they get really excited about talking about themselves. And they also get, well, we just started, oh, Laxton. No, you're not late at all. Hello, and hi, Bob. But it really just helps them build relationships with one another and feel comfortable speaking to each other and making mistakes. And I think that's the most important part, because when you're learning a new language, you're so embarrassed to make mistakes that it helps when you feel like you're amongst friends instead of amongst strangers. So it really helps overall achievement. And so now let's get into the idea. As I said, 10 plus activities, and we will be talking about 10 plus activities. So the first one is called Who Am I? Each student tells a favorite food, place of travel, or something about themselves. That way you decide. So if you have a particular theme that you're studying, or maybe you're studying a different grammar term, like maybe likes, or my favorite is, then you can do it with that. So it's up to you, whatever you're teaching at the time, or maybe questions, or you can adapt it. And then once they say that, they record it, or they can write it on a Post-it note. So they can either record it, like they can record it on the phone or something, or they can use like a little sticky note. And I wonder if I have a sticky note here. I think I do. Okay, so let me get you this. Well, I had a little sticky note somewhere. Or they can even write in a little like note card like this. They can write it down, their favorite. It's up to you, so you don't have to have the technology. And then what you do is you take a bag and you put all the sheets of paper or all the recordings that you collect, and you put it in this big bag, and then each student grabs one of these. So don't put the names on it. And then what they have to do is they have to go around each other and they start asking questions. Or they can listen to the recording. It makes it fun when they get to listen to the recording. They get to hear their spoken English, so that's really great. And the great thing about recording it is it improves their listening skills, but it also improves, they will want to re-record it, so that way they can come and they can get together and they can, when they make a recording, they don't want to make a mistake. And also helps with their pronunciation because they'll tend to do better when they record things. And then they go and they find the person that answered that, so they have to ask a lot of questions. And use clues like that. So that's one of the activities. The next activity, the second activity, is the I Can Circle Run. And I did this in Brazil with a bunch of adults. You can see we're having a really good time here. And one of the things that we did was we put all the desks in a circle, enough for all but one student. If you do have kids that you teach, or even teenagers, you can put pillows on the floor. It just matters that they're in a circle. So you're in a big circle, and then one student stands in the center. So there's always one seat left. So that's why you have to have pillows, because you have to make sure there's enough seats for everybody except one. So you're the first one in the middle. And the person that stands in the center says, I can. And they can say something that they can do. So you learn about them because you're learning all the things they can do. I can ski. That's absolutely not true. I can't ski. But if I could ski, I'd say I can ski. And all the other students who can ski jump up and they run around and they try to sit in their own desk, including the person in the middle. Whoever is left in the middle has to make another I can statement. And it has to be something that they actually can do. And then the other students who are there can do it. This is another activity we played. You can see we're standing face to face. And so we're in a line and we're standing face to face. And this is called speed dating because it's like speed dating if you've ever been there. So you divide the class, you seat them across from each other, and then you give them this scenario. Now you can write the scenario on like a little post-it, or you can write it on the whiteboard. And you write, we're going to pretend the company is partnering co-workers for special projects. So you're going to be partners. And you must figure out who you'd be most compatible with, since you'll work with him or her for the year. So with you, you can say that with your students. Okay, if they're teenagers, you can say, we're going to have pairs for the next project we do. And so you have to figure out who you're going to work the best with, because you want to be very successful in your project, right? And then after that, you hand each student a card with everyone's names on it. So it's like this. It's a little slip of paper, but it has all the other students' names here. And then it'll have a column for boxes you can check. I can actually write it down. And then you jot down similarities, differences, and more about each person. So what you do is you're going to have them on a timer. You're going to set up a timer. And then you have to talk to each other for 2 minutes. And then each student, within that 2 minutes, they have to find out, yes, Ola, that's a great question. Can they ask whatever questions to their partner? Yes. And during the prep, before you start the activity, you can ask that from them. You could say, what kind of questions would you ask somebody? So that way you can have a discussion where they come up with the questions and they say, well, I might ask them if they like pets, or if they like to work, how long they like to work, if they have internet connection. So they might tell you the questions that they would ask. And then after every minute, or I think minute is a good start, because if you have beginners, they sometimes have trouble. And then you can put it to 2 minutes when they get more comfortable. And each student tries to find out as much as they can, and then they switch to the next person. And then at the end, after you've done everybody, now one row stays still and the second row actually is the one moving all the time. So the first row, the row on the right, I'll show you over here. This row stands still. They don't move at all. It's the row in front that's always moving. They must mark down 3 people they'd like to work with and write a short paragraph explaining why they feel they were the most compatible. But the students love this a lot and it really gets them speaking. You've seen this one before. Human bingo. This is my version to find someone who. And I've added different kinds of things. Lived in another country. On this one, this was in Brazil. So it says was born outside of Brazil. You can say your own country was born out of that. Has your more than 30 books. But then I add fun things. Sings in the shower, can touch tongue to nose. Now, if someone says they can do that, what's going to happen after they ask this question? The students are going to say, can I see you touch your tongue to your nose, right? So it gives it a little bit more action. And on and on and on. The hot seat. You've probably seen tons of hot seat games. Hot seat is basically one person that's standing in the front and they are in the hot seat. The students in the class get to ask them questions. I write down the questions on the board, the who, what, when, and where. So we start off with the who. I mean the what, actually. The what is the easiest to start off with. And then each student ask a question to that person about what. They can ask any question. And if they don't ask the question or phrase it correctly, then I write the correct one on the board and the students can take notes who are listening. But they have a lot of fun with this and they get to know each other. So a lot of times they'll ask things like, what is your favorite food? When is your birthday? The who gets interesting and the why. Sometimes I've had why is the sky blue? And we've had a lot of fun answering that. The other one is show and tell. So you choose a picture from your mobile device. A lot of your adult students and even your high school students will have cell phones. And you're not asking them to turn it on. You're just asking them to show their friends. They're going to get in groups of 3 or 4, just like here. And they're going to show their friends a picture on their phone. Okay? And so then they will tell the meaning behind the picture. And you find a lot of very interesting pictures this way. And you get to know about each other and talk. So then at the end, they get together as a class. And then I usually ask, okay, so what was a really exciting thing you found out about your partner? And then we talk about it. And then they show the picture. So it sparks a lot of this. Yes, this is personal, but they get to choose out of all the pictures. So it's the picture that they're most comfortable with. They don't have to have necessarily a phone or something. If they don't have a phone around them, they can take an object from their purse or from like an earring or something, and they can talk about that. They can talk about an object instead, or something they're carrying in the. So all of these activities are getting to know you activities, so they are personal because we want to know more about our friends. The other is meaningful mementos. So a student brings in small objects like this that are meaningful to them in some way. And then what they do is they introduce themselves by explaining how these objects represent them. So you do something, for example, like you show, let's see if I can find something around here, but you can show, like, for example, I have my flash drive, and maybe I'll talk about this object, but maybe it can be something else, an earring, it could be a necklace, it could be a keychain that says Vegas or something. And the students, they might say something, oh, well, this is where I was born. This is where, if it's adult students, this is where I got married. This is when I've heard things like this is when I did a bike trip through Africa. You can tell them to put this in a plastic cup so that way it limits what they talk about, but you get a lot of great conversations with those. 2 truths and a lie, which all of you have probably heard of. Each student tells 2 truths and 1 lie. So they say 3 things about themselves. One of them is going to be a lie. And all of us try and guess which one is the lie. So we have a lot of fun with that. This is actually a photo of me. Can you guess which of these that I am? Am I the one in the right, the center, or with the tiara? So am I in the red, purple, or with the tiara? You bring in old photos and you post these on the wall. So you have a whole bunch of them posted on the wall. But you can't let the students, you collect the photos and you post them because it's going to be a game. So you hang all of these on the whiteboard. You just put a little bit of tape. And then the students, you get the class together and you give them dry erase markers and they write under the photo who they think it is, which of their peers they think it is. And then at the end, the peers gets up and reveals which is their photo, and they talk about the memory. So it brings up a lot of great discussion, and then it's just fun to see really old photos. Yes, I am the one in the red. Bucket list. Okay, so in America we have this cultural thing, so you're teaching culture as well. We call it a bucket list, and there are actually websites dedicated to this. What it is we have a phrase in America, it's so you can teach an idiom as well. It's called kick the bucket. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Does anyone know what that means, kick the bucket, this idiom? Yes, it's die, exactly, Bob. It's when you die. So the bucket list comes from that. What it means is all the things a list of the things you want to do before you die. So this is a big thing in American culture now, and they have groups and communities revolving around that. Online as well, you can find some great lists. And so the students, I just asked them, come up with 3 things that you want to accomplish before you die. And then they get in pairs and they switch their list, and a lot of discussion comes out of this. This was one of the things on my bucket list. Well, I wanted to go to Thailand and I wanted to ride an elephant. So this last November, I got to do that, and I was very excited. So you can have them bring in pictures the next time, and they can show the pictures as well if you want to do it that way. Go Collages, and for adults and in business, if you teach business English and adults, these are called vision boards. But for teenagers, it's called Go Collages, and they love them. They get a poster board, and basically they say what their goals are in life. Maybe it's their goals they want to accomplish in your English class. And it's a great way to motivate them to keep doing, and then it's all the things, the pictures of all the things on how they're going to reach that goal. So if they want to become better at listening, if they want to pass their IELTS test, if they want to pass their TESOL test, if they just want to be able to speak enough English so that when they travel somewhere, it doesn't matter. They're saying specific goals, and then they're saying they're putting pictures on what they're going to do to accomplish these goals. You can do this online, so if you do have access to the internet, these are a few good places to do this. VooVox is this great tool, and it leaves hotspots. So when you're at VooVox, let me go ahead and get that for you. You can put the pictures and links from the web, and a great thing is they can have this for themselves on a wiki or a blog. It embeds. It's really just a fantastic tool. It does videos, so they can keep adding to it when they find motivational things as well. I would also recommend that they could do this, they could make a pin interest of it as well. So let me go ahead and get you pin interest. That's another really great tool for doing this kind of activity. And of course, you have some other activities, other sites for this as well. And this is to make a collage or your goal poster. Now, if you don't have access to the internet, you can just use the board. Glogster.edu is another really great place. You can see one of people's Glogsters. The Glogster is also really good in general because Glogster really is helpful for talking about yourself in general. This is an adult student that was in one of my classes, and you can see her talking about, she's a teacher from Romania, And so she was showing us pictures of her class, and all of this is interactive on Grokster. So you can do this on Grokster. It's very nice. It comes out really beautiful. And then Muzi is a great one. Oh, no problem, Sahar. But we'll have a recording, and I'll show you how to get the recording later. Muzi is this great app. It's wonderful because with Muzi you can do a lot of things with it. Me too, Vasiliki. I love Muzi. There's about 100 different apps with it. This one is a collage, so you see where I put all the pictures of me and Puggy, and then you can put text in it too. So I put text with it. These cartoons were already added. I had done that with something else. I like to do that with Roscoe. And then here, this app is really great. They type, and while they're typing, it makes sounds. So it's really good, and then it plays it back into like a little movie. So it's very cool. WebDocs is another place they can talk about themselves, and they can make a timeline of their life if they want. WebDocs is really great. You can see how someone did their e-portfolio. The great thing about it is when they talk about themselves and they post these kind of things online, then not only do they have time to explore and comment, they can embed this in a blog and stuff. They also have the ability to update it and use that as their web portfolio as they get on in life. And for adults and teenagers, that's really important to begin to think of how they're going to express themselves on the web. So you teach them digital citizenship, and it's really good for them getting jobs in the future as well. So this is WebDocs. WebDocs has a bunch of different apps. You can include video in a WebDoc, and you can include different apps like a poll. So this was a poll. So I put a video, and then if you want to use it just as a teaching tool as well, you can do this with WebDocs. So I put, what do you believe is needed for education transformation? Because this is what this video was about, changing education paradigm. And then they click on it, and then you can get the results and see what your other friends asked to do as well. These are the kind of different apps they have. They have a Twitter search. They have a yes or no question poll. You can include your slide shares, cool fonts, different types of things as well. It works good with adults, and these sites do work good with adults mostly because some of these sites aren't geared for children. In other words, they don't filter them. So it's not something that you want to use with your children necessarily. Sorry, it might be the connection here. I'm going to pause the video, and maybe that'll make it better. Another activity is a 3-2-1 introduction. So some of the things that I was showing you today is really great, but you can do something online with it. It's what kind of lessons you want with it. So 3-2-1 introduction works good if you have an online class, but it also works great face-to-face. So basically you say 3 things we should know about you, 2 places you love to visit, and 1 job you wish you had. You can change these. It could be three let's see, adjectives that we should know about you. 2 places, maybe it's 2 of your favorite foods, and maybe it's 1, let's see, 1 thing that you want on your bucket list. So we can even practice that right now. You can tell us very quickly online what are 3 things we should know about you, or 3 adjectives to describe yourself. This is one example. One of the teachers created an animated video with Zimmer twins. And Zimmer twins is a great way. Your teenagers will love this. But this is an example of an adult one. So even adult ones adults like to do these kind of activities too. You might say, oh, this is really kiddish and stuff. But, you know, adults, they enjoy these things too. So you see she says, let me introduce you to Diane. 3 things you should know about her. This is one of my students. She's an elementary special education teacher in the suburbs of Boston. Yes, she's completely addicted to technology, and then she goes on and on, but she made this little cartoon movie. You can make a book. Students can make a book about their lives. This is one from a little girl that I helped teach in Brazil. This is Juliana. And so she's using something called Pim Pam Pam Pum. I can go ahead and give you a link to her interactive book so you can see what this looks like. Oh, that's a great idea. So Ola says to add to the activity, to ask them to find a similarity between them and a kind of food and why. Oh, that's a great idea. So they can make a book about their lives. It imports all their Flickr photos. So if they're on Flickr, which a lot of them are, then they'll automatically upload for them. So this is Juliana right there. And the teenagers really love to do that. Juliana is about, I think, 15 or 16 now. Mixbook.com is really fantastic as well. Mixbook, you can see how this kid right here, how this teen, he made a book about his family, and he talks about his family. So you decide the topic, but it's still getting to know them activity because it's telling something personal about them, and that's the idea of, is to know personal things about each other, because when you start doing that with the class, then you really begin to know about each other and you're more likely to build a bond. You start establishing relationships, and then you're not so mean to someone. I think it's much easier to be mean and cruel, and sometimes teenagers can do that. They can be mean to each other and laugh at each other when they don't know somebody. But when they get to know them and they get to know cool things about them, then they become friends, and it's just a better class environment. You can use different types of tools that are for comic creation. And I'm actually going to give you a wiki address, which is going to give you all of these types of tools that you can use, including, actually, it's not a wiki address, it's actually from my blog, that gives you 40 plus kind of digital storytelling tools, because this is what this is. It's a digital story, but it's a digital story about their lives. And for them, it's really important because it helps them use the English that they would normally use because it's related to their lives. And sometimes that's really hard for students, is to be able to use the English or come up with it from their head. So I think all of these activities are very good with that. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you that link, so you can have all of these links. Oh, and you can see how an adult this is. He says, I'm Steve, and he writes all these things. I enjoy running barefoot. You see that there's a gun in one of these. So that's why I'm thinking that you, with these kind of comics and things like that, that's why they're more for teenagers and they're not really for kids, because sometimes, you know, this is what happens. Is you might find things like that, and it might be not good for kids. This is a really cool tool. So I'm going to show you two more cool tools, and then we'll finish. But this is a really easy. This takes about 1 minute. It's the Google search story. And with the Google search story, they can create these little Google videos about their lives. So you can make your own Google search story. It's really easy for them to do. And so I'll go ahead and give you the link to that. You can make your own. It takes a minute, and the adults really love this. So if you work with adults, and even teenagers do, you can see where one of the teachers put that, I'm an English teacher in Istanbul. And it searches automatically through the Google, and it makes a video for them. It's like 2 minutes, and uploads it to YouTube. So I have them create these videos, and then they get into pairs, and they talk about their different videos, like what they searched and things like that. It sparks up a lot of conversation. The last one is the Museum of Me, and this one is really, really fantastic. This one is from Intel, and it's just a beautiful video. It's a beautiful video that basically gets connected to their Facebook. Sorry, Roscoe's going a little crazy in the background. But it's just, you should do it. The kids, a lot of them, especially teenagers, are on Facebook. So this is a great way to include that part of themselves, where they get to see, it makes an exhibit of all of their Facebook updates and friends. So you can see mine, it's a video, but I just put screenshots, and it says a museum of me, and it says Shelley Terrell exhibit, and then it tells you what it's about. It says this exhibition is a journey of visualization that explores who I am. So you can teach them that vocabulary as well. And then they get to see it has people in a gallery, and they're looking at your photos. These are all my photos from Facebook, and it's so beautiful, and it has this gorgeous music and all these really cool facts. But I have them create these, then we post them up, or we can just share them privately within the class. And then we talk about them. We say, does this really represent you? It says different categories. Like there's this section where it says your best friends. And that to me was disturbing, because I thought, these aren't my best friends. They're people that post on my wall a lot, or we interact, but I wouldn't call them best friends. So, we would have a discussion about that, and whether or not this was an actual representation of them. And then we got into, well, if you were having a museum of yourself, what would it really look like, and would it be similar to this? So it sparks up a lot of conversation. You get to know about each other. So you can find all of the links if you go to this bit.ly address. So I'll go ahead